As to count 2, murder in the first degree as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogen, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 4, the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
As to count 5, the first-degree murder of Entin, a human being, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
That was a year ago. Bryan Kohberger pleaded guilty, with the judge confirming, with counsel, clear-eyed, without compunction. Today, Kohberger says he's innocent and wants to revoke that plea deal. He said, in part, my actual innocence is my truth, and the plea hinged on by false premises and blatant disinformation must be withdrawn. I don't even know what that means. I would be surprised if his lawyer wrote that, and if they did, the bar should review it. The victims' families, when this first deal happened, had a measure of solace.
Inevitably, you will stand before our Lord and will have to answer to him over the sins you have committed in murdering our children.
Police officers tell us within minutes they had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid.
I don't know what my limits are here, but I'm really struggling, dude. I am struggling, so I wanna just be out in the woods with you just so I can teach you about loss and pain.
While I'm disappointed the firing squad won't get to take their shots at you, I'm confident that the men in prison will have their way with you in more ways than one. You may have received A's in high school and college, but you're gonna be getting big D's in prison.
The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass.
I'll tell you, that guy just sat there stone cold. He had no problem hearing what they had to say. But he does have a problem now. Why? He's lost control. He's lost relevance, and he thinks the system will give him another chance. Will it? Let's bring in NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Entin. Covered this case extensively and brilliantly. Was in the courtroom today with the families the day of the sentencing. And former prosecutor turned defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh is also with us. Brian, what do you know now about how the family's responding to this?
I think they are somewhat shocked. It was called a post-conviction petition, and he actually wrote it, Chris. He wrote it himself. It's actually in his handwriting, all of it. It's 2 pages
Makes
long.
Sense.
And he doesn't have a lawyer right now. He wrote it himself. Couple of things stood out to me. First of all, he says that he was convinced, and I'm standing in the desert, by the way, because I was out here working on a Nancy
Right, you're in
Guthrie
Arizona.
story, and it's like 110 degrees,
Right.
and then this Kohberger thing came down. So I wasn't expecting it today, but he wrote, convinced to falsely confess. He was convinced to falsely confess to capital murder, says that his lawyer essentially did a bad job, ineffective assistance of counsel. I can tell you, I was at almost every hearing. Almost everybody on both sides agreed, even the victims' families would talk about it, that he had a very good lawyer, Ann Taylor. She actually did a very good job throughout, so it's kind of interesting to now see him turn on her. The other thing he brought up was clumps of unknown hair found in Entin Chapin's hands. He's saying that's evidence that he didn't know about. And they actually tested, I saw the pictures, the autopsy photos, there was some hair in Entin Chapin's hand. They tested it, it didn't come back to Bryan Kohberger, but the defense knew about this all along and chose not to make it an issue. And don't forget, Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath, and the cell phone data tracked him to the house, so, and he admitted it and confessed. So no one ever brought that up as an issue before.
Gotcha. Look, that is all good reporting, all relevant, but the most material and relevant part is the last piece. Mark, I believe that they are not going to give him this appeal. The case law in Idaho brackets the post-conviction, post-sentencing change of a plea is very narrow. Gross misjustice is the standard. There has to be a specific change in circumstance. The only change in circumstance here is he wants relevance again. I think this is going to be denied. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. This is not an uncommon motion. We see these all the time from prisoners who are sitting around and they want their 16th minute of fame. The chances of him having this granted are so low and remote, I would equate it to Bigfoot finally riding a unicorn. It's not going to happen.
But look, it gets people riled up. It gives them the attention that he wants. And of course, it re-injures the families. And look, that is the problem with this. Now, what could I be missing? When you look at his, that is a pro forma thing that he basically took off whatever research he was able to get of similar things. The language parrots what's in the statute. But to the context that Bryan was providing, we don't know about any evidence he wasn't told about. And even if it was evidence he wasn't told about, that's not material to his plea. His plea was to get the death penalty off the table.
That's correct. You know, listen, changing your mind and getting a plea set aside is not like canceling a hair appointment or a Netflix subscription. It doesn't happen that easily. He had a plea colloquy done by the judge. It was thorough. I took notes on it. They asked him, are you satisfied with your attorney? Have you had enough time to talk to your attorney? Are you guilty? Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty? Now he's saying otherwise. I don't think that the judge even entertains this in terms of having an evidentiary hearing. I think that he'll look at it and say, on the face of it, there's no busload of nuns who saw that you were innocent and your attorney failed to call. You didn't allege anything like that. So I think, candidly, this will be dismissed and there shouldn't be an evidentiary hearing.
You know, in truth, I had an instinct not to even cover it. And I was going to cover the Clancy case instead because they had openings today, and Dusty was telling me that, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to swap it. But it's getting so much attention that I wanted to dispel the idea that this is going to be a real thing. So we had to do it. And Mark Eiglarsh, I appreciate you punctuating what the legalities are here, because that's all that's going to matter. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.